8 bone-chilling Taco Bell horror stories that haunt you at midnight, too real to forget. Late at night, when the neon lights flicker and the world feels drenched in shadows, Taco Bell can morph into a theater of nightmares. It's a place where the mundane meets the macabre, and the air hangs thick with dread. From ghostly apparitions drifting through drive-thrus to curses that seem to stick to the chili like grime, there is something sinister lurking behind the cheesy burritos. Just imagine, you're at the window, craving that midnight crunch wrap, and you hear whispers, a chilling chorus of voices that beckon you closer. But when you turn, there's only silence. A cold shiver races down your spine. What if you're not alone? Then there's that one story legend has it that late one Halloween, a group of teenagers dared each other to visit the Taco Bell in Cedar Rapids. Just as they approached, the ground trembled. A wicked wind picked up and howled through the parking lot. They saw a shadow dart into the restaurant, flickering lights casting frantic shapes. When they finally entered, the tables were overturned. The smell of rotten cheese overwhelmed them, while a single chair creaked slowly. Did someone leave in a hurry, or was something else at play? Hearts racing, they fled, but not before catching a glimpse of a ghostly figure sitting in the booth, the same booth where they always ordered their nachos. A chill crept into the hearts of Taco Bell lovers, spiriting through the years. Yet it didn't stop there. There was also the unsettling tale from the late-night shift worker who claimed to hear sizzling sounds coming from the kitchen after hours. Just when they thought they were alone, the fryer would spontaneously pop and spit, as if someone were cooking in the void of night. No mere fryers could cook without a soul in sight. Were they serving ghostly quesadillas? The residents of Richmond still talk about that shift, about how the worker never returned to work after that night. No explanation was ever given. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Scary stories shouldn't end without discussing the scream. One fateful night, an unsuspected customer took a bite of their beloved double-decker, only to feel the heat rise in their throat. They had unwittingly consumed the ghost pepper sauce, a cursed concoction said to burn the soul. They screamed, alarming everyone. The lights flickered, shadows danced on the walls, and for just one instant, the air grew cold. Staff rushed to help, but the scream echoed, mixing with the chaos of the night, filling ears, chilling hearts, leaving everyone breathless. What was that anomaly hanging around Taco Bell? If only walls could talk. If only those nachos could spill their secrets. Each passing moment lingers with an unresolved tension. What else would emerge from the dark corners of the drive-thru? As the clock strikes midnight, those horrifying tales twist together, vowing to keep the brave awake, and hunger for answers grows stronger. Dare you delve deeper into the boulevards of terror? Where is the source of this strange phenomenon? As midnight stretched its arms around the town, a figure approached the Taco Bell once again. This time, it was Sarah, a college student struggling to shake off the remnants of a long day. Her stomach growled, demanding attention. Oddly drawn to the flickering neon sign, she parked her car with a slight shiver of unease. Something about that place sent a buzz through the air, a strange vibration that tickled the back of her mind. As she stepped out, the wind howled, swirling fallen leaves around her ankles, an insistent warning to turn back. But hunger and curiosity tugged at her heart, and she pressed forward. Inside, the aroma of tacos and meat hung thick, but something felt off. The place was strangely empty, save for a solitary figure seated at the far booth, shrouded in shadows. Hey, can I help you? Sarah called, her voice wavering into the silence. The figure didn't respond. Just sat there, head slightly bowed, hands clasped together over a tray. A low hum seemed to emanate from them, like the soft whir of the fryer in the back, and Sarah felt a chill crawl up her spine. She shook her head, trying to dismiss the creeping discomfort. Head down, she approached the counter, scanning the menu. Suddenly, the lights flickered violently. Her heart raced as an icy sensation gripped her. "Can I help you?" asked the cashier, appearing suddenly beside her, eyes wide in alarm. Something within Sarah sensed the unspoken urgency in the cashier's voice. "Yeah, I'll get a crunch wrap," she managed. The cashier turned over her shoulder toward the strange figure. "Please don't," the cashier whispered, almost too softly to hear. "What? Who is that?" Sarah asked, glancing back, realizing the figure was now staring at her, face obscured by a hood. Then, without warning, the friar erupted into action, sputtering with ferocity, spitting oil as if something inside were truly alive. Panic rose in Sarah's chest. "This isn't right," she mumbled under her breath. The figure shifted slightly, revealing a ghastly grin that made her freeze. It was an anomaly, a mixture of despair and hunger crafted into a thing of nightmares. The cashier squeezed her eyes shut, clutching the counter as if it were her only anchor. "They say if you look too long, it will take you to," she stammered, her voice trembling. The window rattled with the force of an unseen gust, and Sarah turned to bolt, but the doors held tight against her touch. The lights flickered again, this time plunging them into a choking darkness. In that moment of chaos, Sarah felt an invisible presence wrap around her, drawing her back toward the figure. Whispers floated uninvited through her ears, murmurings of the hungry and damned. "You'll never leave." Not alone with adrenaline surging, Sarah slammed her hand against the door, feeling it finally give way as the lights flickered back on. She stumbled outside, the rush of cool air slapping her face. She turned back, eyes wide, heart pounding. The figure had vanished, but the cash register chimed a dreadful melody that echoed in her mind, one she would not soon forget. As she drove away, the shadows behind her danced, teasing the edges of her vision. Something about that Taco Bell was still with her, embedded in her mind like a foul taste lingering post-meal. What if the true horror of Taco Bell was not only the restless spirits but the haunting guilt of those they deconsumed? As dawn broke over the horizon, Sarah realized she would never be able to forget the call of the hungry shadows, lurking ever closer. What had she just escaped? And was it truly gone for good? Somewhere, deep within those nightmarish walls, another hungry voice stirred. The sun rose in hues of pink and orange, but Sarah felt only a cold grip around her heart. She didn't go to class that morning. How could she? The image of the figure haunted her, invading her thoughts like an unwelcome specter. She replayed every detail in her mind, the flickering lights, the whispered words, that malicious grin. Her hands trembled as she tried to sip coffee, but the bitter brew was only a reminder of the horrors she had just brushed against. Her phone buzzed, jolting her from the swirling memories. It was a text from her friend, Kayla. "Are we still on for tonight? Movie marathon? Bring snacks." Sarah hesitated. The idea of being surrounded by friends was tempting, yet the thought of being alone made her skin crawl. "Yeah, sounds good," she typed back, though her stomach twisted at the prospect of darkness once more. As the sun dipped below the horizon, anxiety clawed at her insides. She made her way to Kayla's house, every shadow along the road appearing darker than the last. Despite the chatter and laughter that filled the living room, Sarah couldn't shake the weight of what had happened. Her friends settled in, the TV flickered to life, but her mind was elsewhere. "Sarah. You're awfully quiet. Something on your mind?" Kayla asked, glancing her way. "Yeah, just been a long day," Sarah muttered, forcing a smile. "Nothing to worry about." Everyone resumed their banter, but her thoughts drifted back to the Taco Bell. The way the cashier had begged her to look away made her shudder. Was that place cursed? She bit her lip, trying to suppress the dread swelling in her chest. Then, something caught her eye through the window. A figure stood by a line of trees across the street, almost blending into the darkness. A chill ran down her spine. It was hooded, and though the moonlight barely illuminated it, Sarah could feel its gaze, burning through the glass. The figure tilted its head, as if acknowledging her. "Sarah, you good?" Kayla's voice broke through her fog. Without thinking, Sarah jumped up. I need some fresh air. Before the laughter and questions could follow, she rushed outside, the cold night air wrapping around her like a heavy shroud. She walked close to the trees, peering into the shadows. Nothing. Just the rustle of leaves and her own anxious breaths. Was she losing her mind? Did her encounter really happen, or had it been a fever dream? She rubbed her temples, trying to shake off the heaviness. Then the sound of something soft humming reached her ears. Like the low whir of machines, or maybe a voice. It was distorted, echoing in a way that made her skin crawl. She stepped back, heart hammering, fear slicing through the fog of uncertainty. Sarah. It was Kayla, her voice filled with concern, pulling her from the brink. Come back inside. But before Sarah could respond, the figure appeared at the edge of the tree line, closer now. She froze, her blood racing. It was impossible to tell if it had moved or if it had been there all along. She staggered back toward the house, the sound of laughter and movies now a distant memory. The door slammed shut behind her, but the noise consumed by the chaos in her mind still echoed. Did you see it? She gasped at Kayla, words spilling out in a breathless rush. There's something out there. Kayla grabbed her shoulders, looking worried. You're scaring me. Are you okay? As fear danced in Sarah's eyes, the group abruptly fell silent, staring at the windows. Outside, the figure loomed large and visible, no longer shrouded in shadows but clearly defined. A ghastly smile stretched across its face. Suddenly, a chill swept through the room, wrapping around their throats like a noose. What are we gonna do? Someone whispered, dread laced in their tone, and then, from the figure emerged a voice, low and hollow, blending into the night. You have looked too long. As realization dawned on Sarah, terror choked her voice. They were not safe. Not here. The figure took a slow step forward, and the lights began to flicker again. Sarah turned to her friends, hearts racing, minds swirling. We need to but. A loud crash interrupted them as the lights went out completely, plunging them into darkness. In that suffocating silence, all Sarah could hear was the low hum of hunger drawing closer. Who would they become when the night finally swallowed them whole? Panic surged through Sarah as darkness settled over the room. She blinked, eyes straining against the thick veil that had stolen away sight and security. The echo of her friends' breaths filled the space, quickening into a collective heartbeat of dread. Kayla. Sarah called, but her voice trembled, barely a whisper. She could sense the others stiffening, fear palpable in the air. Where are you? I'm right here. Kayla's voice wavered, sounding small and distant. Everyone, stay together. A shaky hand met Sarah's, making her jump, and she held on tightly. The pressing darkness seemed to close in even more, like a living entity wrapping itself around them, stifling any hope. With a cracking sound, the room's only source of light, the faint glow from the neighbor's street lamp, flickered erratically, illuminating the faces of her friends. Their eyes were wide, reflecting sheer terror. Maybe it's just a power outage, someone suggested, but doubt laced their voice. Right? Before anyone could respond, the air crackled with energy, as if charged by static electricity. The humming grew louder, almost like an angry swarm of bees, filled with urgency and intent. It resonated through the walls, vibrating in Sarah's bones, a call to something sinister. It's coming from outside, Sarah murmured, her instincts urging her to act. We can't just sit here. The figure stood ghostly, illuminated at the window, shadowed by the night but somehow distinct. That smile widened, stretching impossibly across its face, and its eyes gleamed like twin stars, hollow yet all-consuming. It raised a hand, pointing directly at Sarah, beckoning. Shut the curtains. Kayla shrieked, moving quickly to block the view. But it was too late, they had all seen it. The unnerving smile that twisted its features, the way it moved barely like a person at all. Why does it want me? Sarah gasped, trembling, drowning in confusion. What does it want from any of us? Maybe if we ignore it, it'll go away, someone suggested, but the desperation in their tone betrayed their conviction. As the group huddled together, shushing their fright into whispers, the voice from outside took on a guttural timbre, resonating with cold malice. "You are not allowed to look away. You've invited me." In a wave of icy panic shot through Sarah. "No. We didn't mean it," she said helplessly, gripping Kayla's hand like a lifeline. "We should be left." "Shoo!" another friend cautioned, eyes darting towards the window. "What if it hears you?" But as if on cue, the figure stepped closer, its silhouette clawing at the edges of her sanity. It knocked once, twice, a slow, deliberate tap against the glass, each sound echoing in their hearts like thunder. The lights flickered back on, but not in the way they hoped. Instead, they sputtered a ghostly, dying flicker before going completely dark again, leaving them in suffocating silence once more. In that all-consuming void of panic and noise, Sarah's mind raced with possibilities, treacherous paths and haunting scenarios. "We need to escape," she murmured, almost inaudibly. "No, it'll see us. If we move, it'll know," one of her friends protested. "It already knows," Sarah replied, feeling something primordial awaken within her. She could sense danger tingling against her skin, a primal fear that paralyzed every instinct but one, survival. Terror laced their breaths as they clung to one another, huddled together like a flock of frightened birds poised to take flight. Crash! Suddenly, the back door swung wide as if kicked by invisible feet, splintering against the wall. The figure surged into view, enveloped in darkness, closer now than ever. As their eyes adjusted to the sudden intrusion of a torrent of emotion and fear, they instinctively retreated, every fiber of their being screaming for safety. But the path to the front door was blocked. "What do we do?" the group murmured, caught in a chaotic spiral of despair. Then, from the depths of the unknown, came a voice, soft, seductive, unmistakably familiar. "I've always been with you, Sarah. Now, it's time to play." The room spun dangerously, leaving Sarah gasping for breath, realization creeping into her mind. But the question loomed larger than the darkness itself: who, or what, was it really? And why had it chosen her? The night was far from over, and as they all trembled, something deep inside Sarah began to wake, its echoes demanding attention and answers. The darkness pulsed like a living thing, and for a moment, Sarah felt as though it were pulling her closer into its cold embrace. The voice echoed in her mind, a haunting melody wrapped in malevolence. She wanted to scream, to shout, but her voice had abandoned her, trapped in a silence thick enough to choke on. "Stay together," Kayla hissed again, her voice a taut wire vibrating with fear. The group formed a tight circle, their breaths shallow, hearts racing. The shadow at the door shifted, and Sarah's stomach churned, both with dread and something else, curiosity. Who are you?" Sarah found her voice, shaky and uncertain. The figure seemed to ripple with joy at her question, as if her fear was an offering. "I am what you fear the most. What you've tried so desperately to forget," it replied, the words oily and thick. "I'm here to show you the truth, to remind you." Behind her, someone whimpered, breaking the fragile air. Wheezy breaths filled with despair wrapped around Sarah like chains. She took a step forward, compelled by a mixture of fear and an odd sense of honor. "Show us what?" "That's more like it," the figure crooned, its smile twisting further, distorting its likeness into something unrecognizable. It advanced, shadows flowing around it like ink in water. "You're already halfway there. Don't you want to see?" The walls seemed to breathe with her, each pulse vibrating deep in her core. A flash of cold air whipped around her as the shadows twisted, forming a threshold. "Step through," it beckoned, a finger beckoning with slow, deliberate precision. Her heartbeat thundered in her ears. "I can't." The words felt like a plea, but the reality was that she might need to. Did she dare? "Do it, Sarah. Let us just go," Kayla implored, but her voice was strained, almost desperate. "We don't know what it'll show us." Another voice shot back, laced with uncertainty. "Better than staying here." Sarah snapped back, her resolve hardening under the weight of the darkness. I will show you what you've hidden, it promised. But only if you step forward. Only then will you know with every ounce of strength. Sarah took a deep breath. She glanced back at her friends, whose faces mirrored her own turmoil. They were all scared, but she felt an inexplicable pull toward that figure, an unrelenting compulsion to break the circle of shadow. Don't be stupid. Kayla gasped, tugging at Sarah's arm. Maybe it's the only way to break free, Sarah murmured, the temptation to know battling with her instincts. Time stood still as she took a cautious step forward. The figure's hands spread wider, shrouded in darkness, a twisted grin stretching still further. It felt like a siren's song pulling her deeper into the abyss, where hope and terror entwined like lovers. The walls shook, and a wind began to howl, twisting through the room. Step through. It urged again, its voice echoing, thundering now, demanding. Don't. Kayla shouted, but it was too late. Fear clawed at Sarah as she closed the distance, ready to meet whatever waited on the other side. Just as her foot touched the threshold, a blinding light erupted, engulfing her surroundings. She gasped, eyes shielding against the fierce brightness, heart racing with panic. The darkness swelled behind her, the entity roaring like a storm. And then she was gone. In that instant, everything changed. The room felt empty, ghostly, as if all the life had been sucked away. Kayla stood frozen, mouth agape, peering into the abyss where Sarah had just been. The others whispered frantically, glancing beyond her, wondering in horror. What did it take? What did it want? That desperate moment hung in the air like a tangible thing, suspense suffocating them with its grip. A low sound started thundering, laughter emanating from an unknown source. It was dark and low, reverberating through the room, sending chills down their spines. And then silence. Before they could breathe again, a distant cry echoed from beyond the threshold. It was Sarah. Help me. They felt the pull of her voice, a haunting mix of desperation and clarity. Sarah. They shouted. Moving instinctively toward her voice, but the inky darkness swirled protectively, wrapping its tendrils around their frantic hope. With hearts pounding and time slipping through their fingers, they had to make a choice. Would they step forward like Sarah? Or would they turn back, risking everything to save their friend? The tension thickened, words unspoken hanging between them. Time was short, and silence loomed large. What would they decide? The air crackled with tension, thick and suffocating. Kayla could barely breathe, the weight of Sarah's cry echoing in her mind. Panic surged like wildfire, igniting a fierce debate among the group. We have to help her. One boy shouted, desperation evident in his voice. He took a step forward, barely glancing at the churning blackness that now dominated the doorway. No. That's what it wants. Kayla snapped, her heart racing. She felt the urge to grasp the boy's arm, to pull him back into safety. It wasn't just Sarah that was in danger, they could all become trapped in that relentless void. We can't leave her. He insisted, eyes wide with fear. The others hesitated, exchanging nervous glances, caught between the safety of inaction and the terror of the unknown. Kayla clenched her fists, grounding herself against the rising tide of chaos. You don't understand. It's a trap. It plays with our minds. As if to punctuate her words, the shadows writhed, pulsating with dark laughter that resonated deep within their bones. The laughter morphed into whispers, calling out to them, promising to unveil secrets long buried in their own hearts. The girl shifted, glancing at Kayla, eyes glimmering with trust and uncertainty. What if it's the only way? Maybe it can save her. A shiver of terror coursed through Kayla, the thought rippling through her mind. What kind of freedom came from submitting to darkness? Every choice has a price. She declared, anger spilling from her lips. Don't you see? We risk everything if we go in. Suddenly, another cry rang out, this one soaked in anguish. Please. Help me. I can't. The words curled around them like barbed wire. Raw fear clawed at their insides, and Kayla felt bile rise in her throat. A memory flickered in her mind, Sarah's laughter, the warmth of friendship now tainted by the shadows that beckoned from the threshold. "We can't just stand here." The boy shouted again, voice trembling with urgency. "We need to make a choice." In that darkened moment, every heartbeat felt like a countdown. Time blurred as Kayla stared into the abyss where Sarah had vanished, swallowing hard against the fear that threatened to paralyze her. "Let us go," he shouted, lunging toward the threshold, driven by instinct. "Wait. No." Kayla lunged forward, grasping for him, her nails grazing his shirt just as he broke through the shadows. A shocking jolt coursed through her hand as she felt the coldness of the void that he stumbled, a look of horror crossing his face before he was consumed, the shadows swallowing him whole. "No!" Kayla screamed, the cry tearing through her, enveloping everything in despair. "Get back! Come back!" The darkness roared, fueled by their collective fears. The remaining group members backed away, but terror twisted their faces. The more they resisted, the stronger the shadows became. Shadows not just filled the space but extinguished the last glowing ember of hope. "Sarah! Come back!" Another girl shouted, tears streaming down her cheeks as she turned toward Kayla, pleading desperately, as if Kayla could magically bring them back, but the shadows drew closer, tendrils of darkness crawling across the floor toward them like hungry beasts. Each one whispered promises of forgotten memories, of pain erased, and of truths never tasted. Kayla felt the pull, the growing urge to succumb, to step into the darkness and be free of this relentless fear. A flicker of warmth radiated in her heart, a reminder of Sarah, of their friendship. Rather than succumb to despair, she turned to her friends and shouted, "We need to be together. We can't let it divide us." As shadows danced hungrily around them, Kayla felt the strength of their connection spark within. Together, they could defy the void's grasp, but would they act in time to save Sarah before it was too late? In that crucial moment, the shadows surged toward them in one fierce wave, a tidal force threatening to drag them into eternal darkness. The choice lay before them: to leap into the churning chaos, risking everything for Sarah, or to turn and run, fleeing the darkness that threatened to consume not just one, but all of them. And then, another voice ripped through the air, rising in intensity. "Get out, get out!" Kayla turned, recognizing the urgency, only to realize it was her own voice, echoing behind her, stretching across the chasm of despair. So they had to decide. Would they stand together or fall apart? The darkness shuddered as they deliberated, an ancient mother waiting for her children to unfold into nightmares or angels. Then it hit her. The shadows weren't just feeding on their fear. They thrived on division. Would they strike as one? "On three!" she shouted, a desperate plea mingled with fierce determination. But in the back of her mind, doubts loomed heavily. If they failed, what awaited them? What would they lose? One. The shadow surged once more, a monstrous wave hammering against them. Point 2. Kayla felt her heart race, the truth clawing at her, desperate for release. Point 3. Would they find their way back to Sarah or be lost forever? The shadows erupted around them, a living darkness pushing and pulling, clawing at their resolve. They hesitated, hearts pounding, whispering doubts in their ears. Kayla felt the weight of their fear dragging on her, threatening to pull her under. "Two. Now!" Kayla yelled, summoning every ounce of courage she could muster. They surged forward, an awkward, desperate mass of bodies moving, hands intertwined. The darkness met them like a storm, fierce and howling, each gust seeping into their minds. As they plunged into the blackness, Kayla felt the coldness wrap around her, familiar and suffocating. But she could hear them. Her friends' frantic breaths and trembling sobs merged into a chorus of chaos. Every sound struck her heart, a reminder of what was at stake, Sarah's voice, forever echoing in her mind. They stumbled ahead, the shadows a swirling vortex of fear and regret. "We need to focus," a girl shouted, trying to keep them grounded. Kayla nodded, her heart racing. If she could just find the center, the point where the shadows didn't exist, maybe they could find Sarah. Suddenly, a powerful jolt radiated through the group, a spark of energy igniting like a firework on a dark night. It pushed against the shadows, forcing them back. Together. Kayla screamed, and they pressed on, arms linked, each heartbeat synchronized, but the shadows recoiled, morphing before their eyes. Faces emerged within the darkness, contorted in fear, faces of lost friends and forgotten memories, twisted into grotesque shapes that embodied their shared pain. Kayla's breath hitched. It was as if the shadows were revealing their deepest fears, all at once. "Kayla!" one of her friends wailed, choking on their panic. "This is too much." Kayla felt a tremble in her own heart as the darkness warped the flying memories. Sarah, laughing in the sun, the smell of blooming flowers, and their plans for the future. She fought back against the memories. "We'll find her. We have to keep moving." But with every step they took, they sunk deeper into the shadows that twisted around them like shackles. The temperature plummeted, seeping into their bones. Kayla shivered. They were losing their grip, pulling away from one another. "Stay together!" She shouted again, but her voice was swallowed by the din of despair as it echoed back at her. They were separated, grasping for each other in the dark. The shadows shifted like a living mass, swallowing those who faltered. She could feel their fear, raw and deep. Just when all hope seemed lost, Kayla spotted something, a flicker of light, feeble but persistent, weaving through the void like a guiding star. Instinct kicked in, and she lunged, heart racing, following that speck into the unknown. "Over here!" she cried, drawing them toward the flickering glow. As each one reached out, the warmth enveloped them, a balm against the darkness. And with that warmth came clarity. The shadows hissed in outrage, suffocating under the radiant glow. "Eliminate the divide," Kayla urged, desperation fueling her voice. "We're stronger as one." But the shadows shrieked, an otherworldly wail clamoring for them to succumb. Suddenly, the flickering light burst open, flooding the surroundings with a blinding flash. Kayla shielded her eyes, momentarily disoriented. When she opened them again, silence filled the air. She blinked in disbelief. Everything around her had changed. The darkness receded, unveiling a desolate landscape, littered with remnants of their past. They stood in what felt like a graveyard of memories, each shadow a forgotten fragment of hope. And in the center, a figure crouched, shrouded in darkness. "Sarah?" Kayla whispered, inching closer. The figure turned slowly, revealing a face that was both familiar and strange. "Help me please," but the shadows were shifting once more, rising to reclaim what they lost. Kayla felt the panic clawing back as she forced her footsteps onward. "Hold on, we're coming." And just as hope sparked again, she sensed the ground shifting beneath her feet. The darkness was not finished yet. It was adapting, evolving. Would they be able to save Sarah before the shadows dragged them back down? "I'm not letting you go," Kayla shouted, lunging forward with renewed strength, ready to confront the darkness that lurked just beyond the thin veil of light. But as she reached for Sarah, the figure's expression shifted. "You must choose." The air crackled with ominous energy, a dread-filled promise hanging in the air. The weight of a dark choice loomed ahead, one that none of them had been prepared to make. Would they embrace the darkness or sacrifice one for the safety of all? The choice was theirs, and the darkness was waiting. The tension in the air thickened, a suffocating fog of dread. Kayla felt her heart racing, her mind a whirlpool of thoughts. "What do you mean, choose?" she demanded, clutching at Sarah's outstretched hand, each moment stretching like a rubber band about to snap. The shadows around them surged, revealing more twisted faces, whispering accusations. "It's easy to sacrifice one for the many," a voice hissed, coiling around them. The ground trembled beneath Kayla's feet as a foreboding chant echoed through the air, taunting her resolve. Kayla's breath quickened. She turned to her friends, their faces marked with fear and uncertainty. The shadows, relentless, pushed against them, probing for weakness, feeding off their doubts. Could they trust Sarah? Was she really there, or just another apparition conjured by their own fears? "Just hold on," Kayla shouted, tightening her grip on Sarah. The warmth was fading, and Kayla could see the spectral remnants of their memories bleeding into the shadows. The laughter, the joy, it was all slipping away. What if it's a trick? One friend said, eyes gleaming with panic. What if we're sacrificing ourselves blindly? What if stop? Kayla shouted, panic choking her words. We can't lose faith. Sarah wouldn't want this. The shadows pressed in closer, eager to smother her with doubt, but she refused to yield. We owe it to her. We owe it to ourselves. Sarah, what do we have to do? She urged, her voice breaking with emotion. The figure in the shadows faltered, something in her eyes flickering like a candle in the wind. You have to face the truth, Sarah replied, her voice hollow. You must decide who is worthy to carry the light forward. Kayla felt as though the ground had given way beneath her. The choice hung in the air, heavy and suffocating. Was it possible they had to sacrifice one of their own? The gravity of such a decision crashed over her like a tidal wave. Together, Kayla said, looking at her friends. We can't let fear tear us apart. We've faced darkness before. We can do it again. But the shadows howled, a chilling cacophony threatening to drown out her words. They distorted around her, clawing at her psyche with its icy tendrils. Faces contorted in agony whispered secrets, asking her to relinquish control. Trust us, let go. Frantically, Kayla cast her eyes around, searching for answers. Then, she saw at a break, a shimmering outline of another door hidden in the shadows. There. She pointed, hope igniting. We just need to reach it. But as they moved, the darkness rippled, manifesting into a twisted version of each friend. Kayla froze, seeing herself, a mirror image of her fears, eyes shadowed and hollow. Doesn't it feel easier to let someone else take the weight? The apparition mocked, stepping closer. What as one life for all of them? No. Kayla shouted, though her voice trembled. You're wrong. She felt the shadows coiling tighter around her, the pressure constricting like a vice. The weight of her friend's eyes on her deepened the force of despair swirling around. Was she strong enough to break the cycle of fear? In that moment, clarity washed over her. I choose unity. She exclaimed, her voice rising with conviction. I won't sacrifice anyone. We stand together or not at all. The shadows roared in rage, swirling violently around them, but a light began to bloom fueled by their combined force of wills. Hope surged like a beacon, pushing back the darkness. Suddenly, the ground lurched again, and Sarah's outline flickered. You must hurry. The choice is yours, but time is running out. Kayla locked eyes with her friends, the desperation palpable. We have to jump together. She shouted, the edges of her vision darkening once more. They needed to believe it. They needed to trust one another, but just as they gathered their breath to leap toward the light, the shadows lashed out, a furious blast of sound and fury. Could they truly break free, or would they fall into despair yet again? Just trust me. Kayla shouted, but her heart raced with uncertainty as the shadows crashed down. The final decision loomed over them, and time slipped away. Could they escape? Would fear consume them, or would they dash into the blinding light together? The uncertainty ravenously gnawed at her gut. The shadows thickened, growing more sinister by the second, and as the light flickered dimly, Kayla understood, this isn't the end, it's just the beginning. What confronted them next was beyond comprehension, a reality twisted into chaos. Would the power of their unity lift them, or would they be lost to the shadows forever? The moment Kayla shouted, the shadows transformed around them. The whispers morphed into anguished wails that struck at her heart. Fear clawed at her insides. Jump. Now. But her voice barely rose above the cacophony of despair. Each friend hesitated, uncertainty shining through their wide eyes. A thick darkness swirled like a vortex, pulling at their limbs, rooting them to the spot. Kayla took a step back, and the apparition mimicking her mirrored the movement with a chilling grin. You really think this strength will save you? You're clutching at nothing. No. We are not nothing. Kayla shot back, forcing her voice to stay steady despite the chaos. The shadows writhed angrily, their moans vibrating through her bones, as if urging her to give in. We're together. That's what matters. Beside her, Sarah flickered like a dying star. Trust in each other. Your bonds are stronger than this darkness. With every beat of her heart, Kayla could feel the love for her friend swell, igniting a flicker of warmth amidst the encroaching cold. Together. She hurled the word like a shield. We will not bend. We are not alone. The shadows writhed again, an explosive roar erupting from the depths of their twisted forms. It was a guttural sound, full of rage and pain, a last desperate attempt to intimidate them. But the friends clutched each other tightly, pulling courage from one another's grips. They formed a human chain, each palm pressed firmly into the next, connected by raw vulnerability. On 3, we jump. Kayla shouted, her voice rising above the din. 1, 2, 3. They launched themselves toward the shimmering door, hearts pounding in unison. The moment they did, the shadows unleashed a pulsating wave that struck at them like a physical force. It was all-consuming. It pulled and tugged, as if the darkness had a mind of its own, refusing to let them pass. Kayla felt pain shoot through her shoulder as something cold gripped her and yanked her back. Her breath caught in her throat, she was going to be swallowed. Keep going. Don't stop. She screamed, feeling the strength of her friend's resolve bolster her. With a surge of desperation, she turned and grabbed onto Sarah. You're with me. She cried, and in that instant, they both felt a rush of warmth. It spread through their bodies, amplifying the light that they had collectively birthed against the darkness. Suddenly, the door shimmered brighter, illuminating their surroundings. It was a pulsating beacon of hope, growing bigger as they fought their way toward it. The shadows screeched, they were in an all-out battle against despair. Kayla could see the terror extend from her friends' faces, but she forced the memory of laughter, joy, and shared dreams into her mind. These images fueled her spirit, and she channeled them into one final push towards the light. Then it happened. With a blinding flash, they burst through the door and collided into a new space, a stark contrast of vibrant colors and warmth washed over them. It felt like stepping into a dream torn from reality, but the shadows ebbed and coursed at the edges, relentless. Is this it? One friend whispered, fear still etched in her voice. Before Kayla could answer, shadows lunged at them again, sharp claws of darkness trying to snatch them back. They braced themselves, looking at each other, disbelief etching their features. Run! She barked, but the ground beneath them trembled, and a figure began to materialize from the depths of the shadows. It was tall, menacing, cloaked in darkness, with eyes burning with fury. Did you really think you could leave? It hissed, voice dripping with malice. This was only the beginning. Kayla's heart raced, a spike of terror jolting through her body. The darkness wasn't done with them yet. What could this figure want? Time seemed to hold its breath, and as they braced themselves for the impossible, a chilling question loomed: had they truly escaped, or had they unwittingly walked into a greater nightmare? The group stood frozen as the figure emerged fully, its form twisting in the air like a churning cloud of despair. Darkness wrapped around it, pulsating with malevolence. Kayla felt her heart hammering in her chest. This wasn't just a shadow, it was the embodiment of their fears, their regrets, and the nightmares that had been waiting for them. Did you think you could escape me? The figure snarled, voice a low growl that resonated deep within them. You dwell in uncertainty. Weakness feeds my power. No. Kayla shouted, scrambling for a sense of control amidst the chaos. We're stronger together. She stepped forward, clutching Sarah's arm tight, grounding herself in the reality they had fought to protect. You can't tear us apart. Her friends rallied around her, determination igniting in their eyes. Mirrored momentum surged through them as they formed a protective circle, shoulders aligned against the threat. We want to let you win. Another friend shouted, voice rising above the choking darkness. The figure hissed, icy breath wrapping around them like a vice. Oh, but you already have. You carry the weight of your choices. There's no escape from the truth. Kayla shook her head fiercely. No. We're here to face it, not to run. To reveal it, not to hide. As a battle raged within her, she remembered each precious moment shared with her friends, the laughter, the triumphs, the light woven through their simple existences. Those memories formed the foundation of their bond, powerful enough to repel even the darkest of shadows. A blinding light sparked behind her. Together. She screamed again, pushing forward, channeling the collective will of her close-knit group. They joined hands and took a single step forward as one, hearts racing with a determination that felt both terrifying and liberating. The darkness shrieked in anger, twisting and writhing, pulling back as if it felt threatened. You think these trivial connections can penetrate the void? They feed on weakness. Feelings are our strength. A friend shouted, and they surged forward, an unstoppable tide against the darkness that loomed between them. The light enveloped them, expanding rapidly. Sunny, bright. You're insignificant. The figure howled, but Kayla could see it was losing strength. Every step channeled warmth and comfort, pushing against despair, unraveling the fabric of the shadows that would crush them into madness. And that crucial moment, Kayla spotted a flash of sparkly light nestled deep within the dark mass, as Sarah's laughter echoed through her mind. She could feel it, the power of friendship, memories crafted through trials and laughter. We're not afraid. Let us go. Kayla urged, and they all rushed toward the light, breaking free from the shadows that had ensnared them for far too long. With a final burst of collective energy, they collided with the warmth of the light, exploding into a universe filled with vibrant colors. The figure loomed smaller in the reflection as they pushed through and beyond, its cracks of darkness dissolving into nothingness. They landed softly, gasping for breath, hearts encountered by overwhelming relief. The cacophony fell silent, and they found themselves in a space that felt surreal yet achingly familiar. The hues of bright sunshine enveloped them, and the air was warm and inviting, unfurling around them as freedom washed over their spirits. Are we safe? A friend whispered, glancing at the others. Kayla could hardly believe it. They had fought against the darkness and won, emerged from the nightmare with strength born of love and unity. Sarah stepped forward, now illuminated by the sunshine. We did it together, she said, flashing the brightest smile that lit up her face. No more running. We face everything together. Tears filled their eyes as they hugged each other tightly, their hearts beating wildly with joy. They could feel how deeply they was connected, with bonds stronger than any darkness that dared to threaten them again. As laughter and warmth flooded back into their lives, they promised never to forget what they had faced. Together, understanding that their fears would always be present in some form, but with unity, they could overcome anything. Let us go make some Taco Bell memories, Kayla giggled, teasing the shadow of dread that still lingered. They had turned the danger into a story to share. And as they walked hand in hand into the bright, hopeful horizon, Kayla knew they would always be ready to face whatever came next. The end. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this ending. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Your support means everything to us.